30% water. So maybe they'll give us
I don't
a year and a half to do it.
I don't think I've seen an agenda with this many text amendments. It's just
Yeah.
chief operating.
And it's because we're trying to like implement all of these like legal changes that
All right, everyone, welcome to our meeting this evening. Let's get underway. We have we have no reason for a closed meeting tonight, so we'll go to our report from Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District. Giselle and John, take it away.
Well, I'll just introduce myself really quick. I'm John Richardson, representing Draper and Water Pro. I've been resident of Draper for quite a while now, and thank you for taking some time. And want to introduce Giselle Terry. She's Chief Operating Officer now, newly appointed. And really, I guess we want to talk about just briefly capital projects at Jordan Valley. There's a lot of water, exciting things going on, as well as the water budget policy. And then I see if there's any other questions you can answer. But with that, I'll let Giselle take it away.
Yeah. So yeah, just a couple of things that we kind of want to talk about in terms of construction projects that you may or may not be aware of. So right now we're doing two pretty big vault projects on 114th South. We're doing one at State Street and then one at 110 East. So the State Street one is basically just corrosion issues. So we're just redoing the piping and the valving in there. But it's currently scheduled to start in March. It will require a brief shutdown. And our operations folks are currently coordinating with your operations folks to make sure that we can keep everybody in water. The other one is currently under design. That one will be a little bit more involved because it's relocating the vault from outside of the middle of the street so that we can get to it. It's one of those dangerous vaults. It's hard for us to do any work in just because then we have to shut down the street and all that sort of thing. So we'll actually be relocating that vault, and that will be a little bit more involved in terms of the work that needs to be done there. So that is still under design. We're probably looking at still another 9-10 months before that one construction gets underway. A couple other things that are happening. We are doing increasing the capacity at our Jordan Valley Water Treatment Plant. I don't know if any of you have been there. It is our largest treatment plant.
It's the one in Harriman? I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Harriman,
it's the big one.
Yeah, if you're on a Mountain View corridor, you can't help but see it there. That plant is currently 180 MGD plants, the largest in the state, but we are doing phase 1 of a 75 million gallon per day expansion. So the first phase will look at expanding that another 35-40 MGD, and we're just doing that because of demand, and that will benefit all of our member agencies. We're about 6 months into a 4-year project. To do that, we're rebuilding filters, we're redoing sedimentation basins, and upgrading all the feed there. And that's basically so that we can treat what we call our ULS water, which is the last portion of the Central Utah project, where we're bringing strawberry water across down Spanish Fork Canyon and into the Salt Lake Valley. So we've got
not strawberry flavored, right?
Yes.
It sounds delicious, but strawberry reservoir.
Strawberry reservoir, good clarification.
We joke about that.
We do. And we've got about 16,000 acre feet of that water that we'll be looking to treat with this expansion. So those are some of the big projects we have going on right now that will directly affect Draper in the coming year or so. Another thing that we kind of wanted to talk about was a water budget policy, and throughout the last, I would say, year and a half, we've really been wrestling with, everybody knows that we're in a drought. We've got a certain amount of water. There's a lot of growth still going on in the state, and we're really kind of wrestling with, how do we manage that? How do we make sure that we have enough water, for developments that are happening now, but that doesn't use up what's left for developments that might be happening later. So we went through an analysis of population, demand, developable land, which we considered anything that was less than a 30% slope in our service area. And based upon that, we came up with what we are calling a water budget for the rest of our service area, which is 1.35 acre feet of water per acre of land. So that's what we're kind of broadcasted out there for all future development within our service area. And we put a policy in place that significant developments greater than 50 acres, we would have a policy that they would have to meet those requirements. If they didn't feel like their development could meet that 1.35 acre feet of water per acre, they could come with additional water, or they could come with a fee in lieu of water and say, and meet that requirement. So we had a policy in place, we've implemented that in a couple ways. We're currently still negotiating with the point, but we've, under that premise, and then we also, some of you might be aware of the Olympia development in Harriman, and we did a development agreement with that for them to meet those requirements. We're now looking, our board is looking at the next phase, which would be looking at how do we implement, because you know there's a lot of development that's going to go in that's not greater than 50 acres, and so you know you get infill and different things, but we've still got to meet collectively through that service, our service area, that 1.35. So we're currently working through that with our board. We are looking at kind of a very flexible 3-phase kind of decision tree. If we feel like it's warranted, we can still do a direct development agreement with the developer, similar to what we've done with Harriman and what we're kind of working through at the point. We can also, what we've been looking at is working with the member agencies, depending on their preference. We have some options where we can piggyback on the development agreement that the member agency has with the developer, and we allow the member agency to basically ensure that they'll meet that requirement and also collect any water or fee in lieu of on our behalf. And then at some point in time, they can either transfer that water to us or we can put it in the calculation for their water budget. The other option, and in that case, we would ask that the member agency withhold any occupancy, permits until we can ensure that they're going to meet that requirement. The other option is that we can basically give the member agency and say, this is what, based upon this developable land in your service area, you've got X amount of water. We're going to leave it up to you to how you implement that with development, but that's it. So if for some reason, one development that comes in early, like way overspends their water budget, then it's going to be up to you to figure out how to implement that with later developments.
Can you help put this in perspective?
Sure.
This maybe gonna sound like it's not very educated
No.
question, but can you put in perspective, like for 1.35 acre feet of water per acre, what's like the average for like a half-acre lot? How much water right now on average does a half-acre lot use?
Yeah, so I mean it really varies depending
Just help
on
me understand like how much conservation needs to.
how much conservation
Yeah,
needs to
depends
happen.
on high density or low density.
Yeah, so when you're looking at single family homes and you're looking at like, your typical, maybe quarter-acre lot type thing,
Yeah.
you're looking at, if I remember my numbers correctly, like 0.22 acre feet. The interesting thing is so when we were looking at what the current use is for our entire service area for Salt Lake County, what it currently is, I think our current use was like I want to say like 1.85
Per acre.
per acre. What's like if you put everything in Salt Lake County in our service area together, that's what
And that's where
it's
you want to
around
reduce
there.
it to 1.35.
So that's where we need to reduce it to 1.35. Yep. So I think if you look at Daybreak, and that kind of development, I think they're at like 1.56 acre feet per acre. So to kind of give you some frame of reference.
And Chazelle, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, when you talk about developments like the Point, if they're short on that, right, they're getting their own water rights from others,
Yes.
right? So that is, I don't know,
Yeah.
you guys probably know all that, but
So
that's
someone
happening.
could, so the developer could say, yeah, we don't think we want to have landscaping or density that will allow us to meet that 1.35. We think 1.5 is reasonable, so we're gonna bring X amount of water, either from their own sources or they can go out and purchase that. And then we can say, okay, you're gonna get 1.35 from us, and then that developer will provide
The problem with that though is that's just then taking water from somewhere else.
Yep.
So, I mean, that doesn't
It's true.
really solve the long-term
Now
problem.
that 1.35 is just based upon our water sources and what we see, so that doesn't take into account, water rights or shares that say Kennecott has or, other places have. So there is water out there, but it is getting harder and more expensive to find. Yes, for
Thank
sure.
you.
Or treat.
Our treat.
Yeah.
Yep, all the easy, cheap water to treat is done and future sources are getting much more costly to treat for sure.
How are we looking for this summer? Not snow.
Perfect
winter.
segue into my next slide. So the other thing I wanted to talk just a little bit about, everybody knows that we are in record drought. I mean, this is like the worst snowpack as a statewide that we've ever had. And
But we got this weekend coming.
yeah, we're gonna take whatever we can get. That's right. Snow as much as we can get this weekend. So we're in record territory and it's a little bit scary. Currently, most of our reservoirs that feed Salt Lake County, this isn't true statewide, but most of our reservoirs are about 10% below where they were this time last year. Which doesn't sound too bad until you realize that the expected runoff this year is expected to be somewhere between 40 and 50% of normal. So there's not gonna be water to fill them up all the way. So we're starting a little bit deficit and we're not gonna be able to fill them. So we have a drought monitoring committee that we have one voting member from each agency. We're convening that in the next 3 weeks. And we get together and what we look at is what's our CUP, which is Central Utah Project allocation, and that provides about half of our water supply. We look and see, are they gonna be able to deliver us our full 100% allocation, or are they gonna say, yeah, you only get 90% or something? The other thing we consider is our Provo River, Deer Creek storage allocation. And same thing, we look at what they're gonna give us. We're guessing this year that they're looking at probably a 60 to 80% allocation this year. And then we look at what groundwater supplies we have and how hard we've been pumping those in the past years. The nice thing is we've had the luxury of not pumping our groundwater hard, so we have a little extra in the bank as far as groundwater goes. The real issue is, even if we're gonna be okay this year, problem is nobody knows what's gonna happen next year. And it's gonna take several years of normal to kind of get us where we're feeling good. The last time we had a similar drought, we got that record snowfall the following year, which was just fantastic, but who knows, we may have another year like this and then we're gonna be in real trouble. So part of that drought monitoring committees, we vote, we have 5 levels of drought, and so 0 is considered full availability. We have a level 1, which we start asking for 5 to 10% voluntary reduction. A level 2, we're looking at more of a mandatory reduction around the 15%. So we're gonna see kind of where our member agencies are feeling. We'll make a recommendation to our board, and then our board in our April board meeting will decide what level they will implement for the year, and that may change mid-year. We might implement a 2, and if things aren't going well and people aren't conserving, we get into July, August, and we're like, no, we gotta ratchet that up. So one of the things that we're doing is we really know that it's gonna be important to be consistent with messaging, that we're sending out a consistent message, and also consistency in, to some extent, we realize every member agency is a little bit different, but the more that we can be consistent in messaging and also our responses, the better response we'll get from the public. So one of the things we've asked each of our member agencies to do is put together a drought response plan, which lists basically actions for each of those levels. That kind of says, okay, if we're asked to reduce, 5 or 10% voluntary, what are some things that we can put into place to try to get that? And then, responses for each level. So when we have our, go ahead.
I was just like, when do you start implementing those? Like, when would the messaging?
Yeah. So typically, we'll start messaging pretty heavily. I mean, we try and start messaging conservation all the time, but we really kind of start late March, early April. This year, I think we're gonna get started earlier, and we're gonna have to hit it harder just so that because really the places that we have the best opportunity to conserve is waiting to turn on our sprinklers in the spring and turning them off early in the fall. That's where we get the biggest bang for our buck on conservation.
Sorry, when do you think that the public actually starts to pay attention to the messaging?
I mean, we got a really good response with the last drought, so the fact that it's been on the news, it's been, constantly, I think people are already tuned into that. They can look outside and see there's no snow on the mountains. So I think we're gonna get a good response that way, but it'll be really interesting to see if we, it has to hurt a little bit more than it did last time, which I think it will, what kind of response will be. But I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to, like I say, so I think we're gonna be fine this year. Next year's gonna be a little interesting.
So in practicality, does this mean that residents will get a certain amount of water at one rate, and then if they go over that rate, the water costs more money?
So we have tiers, a tiered water rate for our retail. About 10% of our deliveries are retail, about 90% are wholesale. So we obviously don't have as much, control over our wholesale, and we don't have wholesale conservation rates in place. They're based upon pumping rates and just the cost of water. But for our retail system, we do have 4 tiers, and we've kind of set those bottom tiers for what we consider judicious use, and then if you get into those, then there's a higher use until 3 and 4. Now, we are currently doing a rate study, and we are looking at adding perhaps a surcharge, because with the past legislature, they passed a bill that said we could actually collect fees above the cost of water, which we could not do before, as long as we use that money towards conservation projects and messaging. So, we're in the process of figuring out what those should be in terms of like a surcharge. Yeah. Any other questions along those lines?
Thank you.
Okay.
Very nice. Thank you
You're
for coming.
welcome.
Thank you.
Next up, we have, Mike, are you gonna do your legislative update?
Let's go ahead and skip that for a second.
I'm gonna skip over that and go to short-term rentals, Jen.
I think you have it on.
The clicker's up there if you want to.
Thanks. Okay, so you guys asked for, just a update on short-term rentals. Staff has been working on this. I know you guys have been waiting for a while for this. We've been playing catch up with state law changes. So as of tonight, we'll be caught up for last year's code changes for state law. So we've had a little bit more bandwidth to continue working on short-term rentals. So we do have a draft ordinance that is being reviewed internally right now. So hopefully we'll have something to you guys shortly. There is 2 questions that I did want to kind of get your guys' feedback on. And then I can kind of go over how we're setting up the ordinance and what we're looking at. So the first one is, where should short-term rentals be allowed? We allow them in all residential units. Should we limit them? We are proposing, single family townhomes, condos, and detached ADUs. We're not proposing internal ADUs. And then the question of apartments has come up, and whether we want to allow short-term rentals for apartments. Some apartment complexes themselves do short-term rentals. They have some units that are long-term, some units that are short-term. So from a business standpoint for apartments, that is something that we do have in the city and we do see. And I do believe there are people that do sublease their apartments. That's something we would like to allow or not. Talking to PD, Todd Taylor got with a couple individuals in PD, and they did have some concerns with short-term rentals in apartments. So my recommendation would be that we allow for the overall complex to allow short-term rentals, but not sublease apartments, that kind of thing. Because when you have a management company, they're making sure rules are followed, things like that, versus somebody who's subleasing. But I want to get feedback if you guys have any thoughts on that.
So Jen, you're suggesting if you let the owners of the apartment complexes do short-term rentals, like they could for their excess units, like that are vacant, help them stay profitable, and they're controlling it. They've got an incentive to stay compliant with city laws.
Yes.
Okay. So you feel more comfortable saying apartment owners could do short-term rentals of their excess inventory,
Yes.
but the tenants could not sublease.
Yes.
Okay.
And would that mean, so I know a lot of people, let's say I have a year lease and I am moving after 3 months, so I sublease it, someone else for 9 months. So you're saying not allow that, or
Well,
not allow just short term?
That would be a long-term rental.
Okay.
So anything over 30 days is considered long-term.
Oh, okay.
So when we're talking short-term, it's 30 days or less.
Got it. Thanks.
I think a 2-night minimum's pretty small.
You want a larger
I don't know, I
minimum?
just wonder if maybe
Well, like
some places they require you to rent at least 5 nights or something,
yeah,
For 7.
or a week, yeah.
Yeah, the idea of that, having a minimum stay requirement is, you don't have somebody coming in, renting for a night, throwing a big party and leaving the next day.
Which we
Yeah.
have.
So, which we have, yes.
which we've had.
I think that they have found in places where they do a 2-night minimum, there's less of that though, 'cause it's.
Maybe go up to 3.
I think 3 might be.
3.
Are you okay with 3, Fran?
Yeah,
It's gonna be a lot more expensive for
Right.
just one night, so it's
Right.
gonna keep out some of those people that are just trying to have
the
a
3 would
party.
probably help make it.
Get up
Okay.
and partiers.
Yeah. And I like the idea that they can't sublease short term.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll include those 2 items in our code. I don't know if you guys want me to take some time to go over what we're specifically looking at in our draft, or if you just want us to bring that back to you to take a look at in its entirety.
Just go
And
over
then-
it a little bit. maybe.
Okay.
Were you looking at also limiting it to certain areas? That was the, or,
We weren't
yeah,
looking
keep
at.
going, Jen.
Yeah, we weren't looking at geographical areas, so more the question is, are there certain types of housing we maybe don't wanna allow them in?
Okay.
Like the apartments, internal ADUs, given that, internal ADUs under state law really is to try to get affordable housing, so we're not gonna allow those to be short-term rentals. So, you know, our process, you know, our application, we'd be looking for obviously, owner information, an urgent response contact, which I'll go over a little bit more, floor plans, they have to actually show us what rooms, sleeping areas there are, what parking there is, their maximum occupancy, that kind of thing. From a process standpoint, it'd be approved through the zoning administrator, so that's me. It'd be done all administratively through staff with an annual renewal. And then, through the business license, we'd ensure that we're collecting our tax, our transient room tax. So standards, you get 1, short-term rental per unit. Limit it to 1 renter at a time, and that you can't divide it up into multiple rentals. If you have a house, you're renting out the house. Prohibit, parties and commercial events. Again, require that, permit. Prohibit trailers, campers, things like that from being used for short-term rentals. But we'd also be exempting RV parks, mobile home parks, bed and breakfast, that kind of thing, where they often do have short-term, tenants. Occupancy, and this is based off building code, but setting a minimum square footage amount based on the occupants and the room sizes, so that they're not just cramming in as many bedrooms and people as they possibly can. And then setting a minimum parking, with the parking amounts going up based on the number of bedrooms. And then having an urgent response person, so the host has to provide us a telephone number and contact where we can reach somebody 24/7 in case there is an issue. We would provide that information to PD as well. And they also, I'm not sure if it says it right here, but we're also looking at a requirement that, abutting neighbors, that they're actually providing that contact to the adjacent property owners, just so those ones that are directly abutting, so if there is a problem, they can contact that host versus, say, calling the police.
I think an hour is maybe a little long. Could we make it a half an hour? Within 30 minutes?
Yeah.
To
we
be
can
at
do
the
that.
property.
Yeah,
when
because
it
an
happens.
hour, if there's something terrible going on, you need someone to respond sooner than an hour. I feel like an hour might really be 2 hours.
Depending on how terrible, yes.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some bad ones.
We have.
So would it be the host or their representative, right? that
Yeah.
would be there?
Yeah, so the idea is, if something's happening, PD gets a call, they can contact the host, or the neighbors can contact the host rather than contacting the city, and the host can come take care of the situation.
On the really good ones, you get the paramedics and the police at the same place.
Yes.
Then it's party.
But we can look at, that response time.
Should that also should it also be provided to the fire department? not only
Goes to
just Draper
dispatch,
Police,
or dispatch
that's
knows
fine.
who the responsible party is.
Prohibiting outdoor activities between quiet hours, 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then, inside the short-term rental, requiring that they're actually posting information, the permit information as well as that, post, response and the rules that have to be followed. So that those who are renting actually know what rules they have to follow. Prohibiting exterior signage. That way they're not advertising that they're doing something commercial on the property. Health safety, making sure that there's fire extinguishers, smoke and carbon monoxide, detectors, if there's a fire sprinkler system, making sure we're getting copies of their annual inspections on those sprinkler systems. And then the visible house, units, so emergency response can find them. Maintenance, just making sure that they're maintaining their property per our code, requiring any online listing to actually list their business license and short-term rental permit numbers, so that those who are renting can actually see they have their proper permits. And then if we need to do inspections, allowing inspections.
Jan, I'm assuming like when they apply for their license or whatever, they'll have to fill out that same fire code form that we require all the businesses to fill out each year when you renew your business license.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, we'll have to.
one that's modified for residential.
Yes, yeah, we'll work with the fire marshal to get, the form on exactly what he needs.
Could you just go back to the planning side?
Catherine,
So we have nothing right now, right? Do we have a lot of problems? Because this seems like we're going pretty heavy-handed on this, and I wonder, like, do any of the cities around us have anything? Do we have a lot of problems? I remember when there was like a murder a couple of years ago. It was a while ago though, right?
Yeah.
But there are two in my neighborhood that, you know, there are some annoying things, but we haven't had any problems. I wonder if like people, because it does seem like we're going pretty heavy-handed on the permit.
There are problems in your neighborhood.
The people who live next to them hate stuff.
Yeah, so we have problems though with rental, like people.
No,
With
the
ADUs.
short-term.
With ADUs and
So
short-term rental.
so the idea is to not be too heavy-handed with this, to provide guidelines and making sure that they're coming in for permits, so that we know that they're operating, they know what the rules are, those who are renting know what the rules are. But this is actually not as strict as some other cities, and most cities around us have some form of short-term rental regulations.
These are
Yeah,
pretty
pretty
standard,
interesting.
like when you rent a place in St. George or wherever, this is pretty normal.
Yeah, I think we need to have something like this. Now the other, if it's just a home, not an apartment, we're saying minimum of 2 nights. We're thinking we'll stay with that for the home.
Well, I think we were thinking the same minimum amount
For
regardless
either.
of type.
So we go to 3 for that too.
Yeah.
Bryn had brought up an issue the other day about, what was it? It was like, if they aren't meeting these requirements, can we revoke the permit?
Yes. So we'll have to add that into our, into the code, but there's the code enforcement process. If they're in violation, we can revoke their permit.
Or if someone doesn't have a permit, and what's the?
So then it's code enforcement process to get them in compliance. So the first step would be a notice of non-compliance, giving them an opportunity to come in and actually make that application and bring the property into compliance. If they don't, then they can be cited.
So how's our capacity to do enforcement? That's the challenge, right?
We
She's
are.
smiling under that mask.
Yeah.
I know, I saw her eyes change.
We are enforcement-based, complaint-based enforcement. Right now we have one code enforcement officer. But we do respond to, the complaints that we get. Now we do something like this, we would give them time to come in and make that application. So it wouldn't just be an immediate, you're getting that fine, you're getting that citation. We do try to work with people.
Do you get frequent calls about these?
It kind of ebbs and flows as the season goes. There's definitely certain neighborhoods that have a lot more than others, and we do hear from those neighbors. There's definitely, we hear about the same ones.
Interesting.
So
and at this point, when you hear about the same ones, what do we do? Because there's nothing, we do nothing, or we?
well, it depends. I mean, it depends on what the complaint is. Because sometimes there are things that you can do, and other times there just aren't.
Yeah.
Depends on the specific complaint, but we do hear about the same ones. So whether it's that host is acting in bad faith and doing parties and, allowing parties and things like that, or it's that neighbor is upset about the rental. There's a couple different reasons why we hear.
But do you hear the same complaints or the same number as police? Like, would police also be receiving separate complaints?
My guess is they hear it more. But I haven't had that conversation with them.
We hear about the parties.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can limit the occupancy to these, but that would help us if, they start having these big house parties, it gets out of control for us.
Yeah.
Well, they're not allowed to have parties, right?
Yeah, so the code wouldn't allow parties or commercial use. I think having multiple stays would help with that. But then also, it does talk about having minimum size standards, so they're not just cramming people in.
Did you already say, is there a state law at all, or any state, anything? Nothing?
Not yet.
Wild West?
No.
Haven't heard of a bill yet either.
Yeah, every year we think there may be a bill, but then nothing really comes down the pipe.
How do you enforce a party though? I mean, as far as
I think it's the noise.
defining it though as a party.
Parking, probably don't be way over a parking.
Hey, we just had some family over,
Well,
with some friends, and
I
we
think
know it's a party, but it's.
I think that's gonna come down to neighbors calling, letting us know.
We get called with juveniles at alcohol with juveniles, racing up and down the street, overwhelming the neighborhood. That's what we do. Yeah.
And that's what having a contact that we can call to say, hey, you've gotta come deal with your tenant.
Also, it will be the number of guests that happen to be on site versus the occupancy. If you're exceeding it,
It's a party.
You're having a party.
And if you are like a family of four and you're staying there and you have family in the area and you have them over for dinner, even though if you're exceeding it in a calm way, you're probably not gonna have
Maybe you
any.
define it as a gathering exceeding the occupancy.
Yeah, we can look at it that way too.
Gathering above the occupancy level.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions?
No, I appreciate you looking at it and starting to get us something.
Yeah.
I think it's important to do.
Well, thank you,
Yeah,
Jen.
people have been asking for
Are
it.
we skipping the next one?
Yeah.
Skipping that one, right? Sorry.
Did you wanna go back to your legislative update?
Yeah, well, I heard, when I came in, I heard you were talking about, so you may be aware that already there's 951 bills as of earlier today. There's
Noon today.
Yeah, so we'll definitely exceed 1,000. We've been watching the property tax bills closely, and you met with Senator McKay. I don't know if you wanna.
Yeah, I met with him last week and I met with him today. So Senator McKay's really not trying to blow our property tax system away. He really does actually appreciate, if you look across the country, most property tax systems, the cities and states that still have them, they don't guarantee a municipality the same amount of money the next year. So they don't have what we have. What we have is actually really workable because we can count on getting our same amount the next year over year. It's not the case across the country. There is a ton of pressure from outside groups, if you will, that are also inside groups. I met with Dan for like an hour and a half, and then when I walked out of his office, I was almost in my car. That was when President Trump tweeted last week that we need to abolish all property taxes. And Dan and I talked about that with respect to now the referendum, they're worried that there'll be a referendum from people that wanna eliminate property tax. And there's a certain group that hears the call, if you will, and the call went out last week from the top of the call chain to abolish property tax. So that's a real pressure that they feel. Dan also feels like there's gotta be some kind of, I guess some modifications, if you will. I think we're headed in the right direction. They're gonna tweak, most likely, our fund balance going down from 35% maximum, that we can hold in the fund balance back to 25%. It's what it was 6 years ago. That's one thing they've talked about. They talked about getting rid of.
So what's the reasoning on that one, Mayor?
They think that there's all this money sitting in PTIF accounts and in bank accounts, and we're not spending it. We're raising taxes on people, but we have this big reserve that we're not spending.
So does he not understand the concept of the rainy day fund?
No, he totally does. He 100% gets it. But we're talking about political wins and, making it all work. One of the things that they're also talking about is getting rid of the ability for us to do capital projects out of our reserve funds. So in other words, if you want to build a building, you got to bond for it and have the taxpayer pay specifically for that capital project. A lot of cities save money, like we even do, and then spend it on capital projects. That's one of the things they're looking at.
They want to prevent us from doing that?
They want to prevent us from doing that. It's one of the things they're thinking about.
I don't understand.
Is it to get more residents?
It goes back to the concept of more transparency. You have this money in your reserve account that you're not spending. Some cities don't spend it ever. They never tap into it unless there's a serious major emergency. They don't. So some of these cities have big funds of it, and they save for all these capital projects, but they can't identify any of the capital projects that they're saving for. Well, they're saving all this money for capital projects. Okay, which ones are they? They can't come up with them. So it's like they're worried that the taxpayer says, "You're going to raise my taxes this year, but you have all this money in the bank." Right. And Senator McKay gets it. He knows that I told him about our storm that was, $3.6 million when it was all said and done. 22 minutes of rain. So those are things they're talking about. The caps are gone. The concept of changing your residential exemption and lowering it and making the business one higher, I think those have gone away. Now we're looking at tweaking. The one thing is interesting is trying to make the tax notice more usable. And one of the things Senator McKay has is some great data, like the actual economic impact of property tax on us for 25 years as a percentage of our income is 1.5%. And it has been that way for 25 years. It has really never gone up. So all the taxpayers, our constituents, get mad because they see school districts, counties, and they feel like their tax bills just soared through the roof. But as a percentage of your income, because your income's gone up, your value's gone up, all that. So they're looking at maybe, I don't know how this notice thing will work out, but showing a taxpayer, hey, this is how much you're paying in property tax, this is how much you're paying in sales tax, this is how much you're paying in energy tax, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one of the areas. I would say that there's going to be something like that come out of it. I think that's the ultimate where the tax bills come down. So we'll probably have to lower percentage.
In a way, I kind of like the bonding thing because it puts it back on the residents,
It does.
Do you want a community center? If you do, vote for the bond.
And
if you want your road redone, if you do, vote for the bond.
And Senator McKay's point is if you're going to have a whole bunch of money in a reserve account, you could be spending it on city services that you provide instead of saving it for capital projects, which you can go to the voter to get funded.
Yeah, the transparency on that's good.
Right. And then, of course, they also are going to produce some videos and some training material to do what we did in our Truth in Taxation last year, where we explained to our constituents that we don't get the increase in your property value. Everybody thinks that as your property value goes up, we continue to go up, but we don't. I mean, if it was like that, we'd never see them. But of course, that's a fundamental problem across the state. People don't understand how it works. So it's odd because they're going to treat the truth in taxation timelines too, you might have to do a pre-truth in taxation, I guess, like a pre-truth in taxation hearing in July.
Declare it. Yeah.
And then do it in August. And they're trying to fix some of the traps that we missed, those things.
How about just eliminate the traps, right?
Right.
Yeah, they're trying to make the traps clearer so you won't step in them, but they're still gonna be there. And that's it on tax policy.
Did you
yes.
say that the 5% per year maximum they've done away with
Yeah,
that?
that's not floating around anymore.
Oh, that's good.
That doesn't, they didn't get enough steam on that from various places. Like I said, Senator McCabe thinks the truth in taxation system is pretty good. Does not want to destroy it. The other part of it is it depends on who the legislator is, who's kind of got this space. And right now, Senator McKay is like sitting on the chariot running the space. I mean, like it or lump it, he's the one that's been there long enough, cares enough about it, that his colleagues are letting him kind of be the gatekeeper.
Is he kind
on
of
it.
the self-appointed chair of this, or is he? I don't mean it that way,
He's the
self-appointed. But
Well, just I think his Senate colleague just said, "Hey, Dan, you seem to have a good policy head on this. Do it. You're gonna be." And to his credit, he in coming up with his ideas, he brought in all the smart minds on tax. He even brought Roger too, who's our league general counsel, who Roger's been around since Moses almost, maybe longer.
He's got Moses' staff.
He does. He has a couple of them. But Roger was there when the whole thing got set up in the residential exemption. One of the things McKay said that I thought was pretty damn good, actually. He said, we give this big residential exemption to the residents, but they're the ones that call the police and the fire department. So we give them a big, huge exemption, but they're the ones that use all the services. And then we, shift it to somewhere that doesn't use services, like, Coles is not calling the cops all the time, or firemen. It was interesting.
Coles is calling the cops.
not at the level of, anyway, that was his point. I don't think he's gonna tweak that, but there's this inherent belief that we have this residential exemption, but it's rooted in weird politics from years gone by. But he did incorporate all the smart minds on property tax policy, so I think he's done a good job trying to thread it. But he's got a pressure group over here that wants to do away with it.
So if you eliminate property tax, how do you collect
Yeah, well, what I said to
revenue
that
to
was,
support the city?
what I said to him was, I said, the government sucks at almost everything it does. It's not good at most things. But we will get a paramedic to your happy house in 4 minutes and save you from your coronary, if we have one that we can send. We'll get a police officer to your house in 4 minutes to stop your domestic violence from turning into murder in 4 minutes. Those are the things we're really good at, but they cost the most. So you eliminate our ability to pay for that, you won't have it. Good luck. They have it all over Europe. You don't call a paramedic in a lot of places and get any help. That was my point to him. It's like, look, we don't. It's not that we take this money and go on trips. I mean, almost all of it goes into public safety, roads. So he gets that.
So if you did away with property tax, how would you fund those things?
Well, they're doing it in some states, and they shift it to business.
Fees, is it just fees?
They shift it to business, and they tax the businesses more. Raise sales tax. I don't know.
You're still gonna pay for it.
Right.
Money has to come from somewhere.
Unless you privatize emergency services.
Right. Yeah. I don't think you could privatize it and get it faster than you do. It's like it's one thing we're really good at.
Usually that's more expensive.
It's the best thing we do, really. Probably the fastest, best service we provide is that, which is what people care about the most too. At the end of the day.
Well, if you privatize it, I'm sorry, how do you pay for it?
I guess you just charge a fee to every resident. Like a
So
paramedic
whoever's
fee.
privatizing it sends you. ADT sends me a bill, basically.
Right.
But
peak along.
like a lot of the more, I don't know how to say this without wrong the recording. A lot of folks that might think Florida's doing a really good job at it, or some of these other states, they, Senator McHale acknowledged to you, they're really a disaster. It's not working there. It's not the success story that they say in Florida, for example. But that's not, we're in an era like never before where certain people can tweet stuff and then large swaths of people seem to think it is gospel truth, and that then some action needs to be done on something that was said that has no basis in reality.
And if you don't act on it, then you're now.
Then if you don't, then you're on the other side of the great tweetings, and you're not smart enough to know that tweetings were really the smart things, and you're the idiot. Is that diplomatic enough?
I have no idea what you're talking
But
about.
anyway, I also did hear a little bit about the gas tax
Yeah.
situations, which is interesting. When it's all said and done, we're gonna get a 6-month, gas tax reprieve that will amount to about 6 cents a gallon, so.
Fix that.
Trying to think what else.
For 6 months,
For 6 months.
and then,
Then it goes back.
and then we're gonna now be 12 cents more.
Well, it goes
down.
back to whatever it goes, I don't know.
Or,
you know.
yeah, or,
And I was in a land use, the land use task force meeting, I went to that today.
Oh, sure, thank you.
That's the big LUDMA bill that all the developers are on one side of the table and all of us on the other side of the table, and they're all, you know, everybody's there at the trough trying to get, cause now there's all this new funding for this, you know, cause the developers have been telling everyone, not that this isn't 100% true, but they've been telling everyone that the reason there's not all these houses are getting built, all these units that we have entitled, the 138,000, the reason is cause the infrastructure is too expensive to build. They can't make money if they don't have, you know, infrastructure, water tanks, all that business. It's not, that's the true reason why they're not getting built. That's what they're telling everybody. So some of our legislators, our representative Calvin, is calling them on their bluff, and he's created this bill that's actually amazing, that is gonna give infrastructure loans, and now cities are gonna be able to say, okay, you got, you know, Olympia Hills, you wanna build here? Well, we're gonna do a loan, and it'll here's your infrastructure. We'll see how they do on building all these units. I suspect myself that they build the number of units they can make money at, that they can sell at any given time, and it has not a damn thing to do with anything else. I could be wrong on that, but that's my 2 cents. So we spent a lot of time in that meeting today, talking about all that. Calvin did get another additional loan going to the point, 18 million to finish the infrastructure.
it's a loan though, not a grant.
That's always a loan, yeah. The government loans, it's government subdivisions money.
But the Innovation
Gives it
Center
to-
for Canyon School District got a $17.1 million grant last week, I understand, from the legislature.
There you go.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
I just found out about that.
But anyway, that's kind
That's
of
a
the,
lot. That's a
of the
lot of
big
money.
stuff. Ray Ward has a bill that's still trying to get out of committee that is just insane and stupid in every regard, but, you know, it's essentially one part of it is, if a developer brought in a sketch on a piece of property, like he sketched it out, and we didn't act on it, I think it was 30 days, wasn't it, or whatever it was? How much?
30 days.
30 days. If our planning department or the government didn't, you know, get the process going, that the sketch would become what they could do. The sketch, literally.
And it became basically a zoning entitlement.
Yeah, the sketch, whatever you know, you could have your 5th grader
It was an insane
sketching some stuff out.
committee
And that's still being held in
There we
committee.
go.
Yeah, that's literally, that could be it, yeah.
There's your sketch.
Or you've seen the one where the kid draws a giraffe and the other kid draws a dog and they look the same. That was actually used in the committee, talking about, you know, how do you know what the sketch is? I mean, it's just.
It's to build on like really small lots
Yeah, it's just that.
It'd work great out there on edge home sites and stuff then, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, they could just sketch it right out. That bill's in the committee, but he got some amendments that are kind of, Cameron thinks are on the fringe of not really dealing with the real bill. But he thinks that the little amendments are gonna get it out of committee, so I don't know. You know, there's still the belief that the cities are holding up all the housing development. I mean, they've been very successful at that narrative, and it's.
And that's the developers.
Developers have been successful at it, yeah. Now, the House isn't necessarily with them on, there's not any big real, Ray Ward's bill though, one thing it does do, why we're gonna be, there's gonna be a call to action from the league, is because it does erode our land use authority in a bunch of spots. So you're gonna get an email, make sure you know, act like the league army on that one. That's probably the worst bill that's in there right now.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Trying to think if there's anything.
What's the details of that bill again?
Ray Ward's bill,
Yeah. It's called a preferred land use regulation, meaning you can build on a 5,000 square foot lot if you submit a sketch.
Your sketch.
Oh.
Yeah, it's.
Where this all came from was literally he had some family in his ward, in his neighborhood, that wanted to rent their basement out to the missionaries, and there was an ordinance against it. This is what spurred the whole Ray Ward saga, literally. And it's gone from that to by right ADUs to sketch artist work, all of it. I killed this bill last year in the committee, but this year he's got more, and this is the time of the silly season of the legislature, right? Because they're all horse trading with each other on all the dumb stuff. So there's some dumb stuff that's going to keep moving along because the other people got some other dumb stuff over here they want to get passed. So all the dumb stuff just kind of walks along, and then some really dumb stuff falls away, and the other dumb stuff gets passed.
All put together in one bill.
There's much horse trading afoot right now.
How much time do we have left?
We're at the middle.
Last Wednesday was
3
not
weeks.
bad.
All right.
The UTA bill is the last one.
Okay.
UTA bill is, the league, although against my better judgment, wanted to get more involved in this than I thought we needed to, but the way the UTA is going to get restructured if it all passes, this is Wayne Harper's bill. Instead of having 3 commissioners, one from each of the counties, as the getting paid to do whatever they do, along with the general manager that they hired to run the UTA. So you have the 3 commissioners, a general manager that's running UTA, and then the local advisory council, which I've been on for the whole time it's been around, which has no actual power to do anything. So Harper reconstructed it to be, so now if you haven't paid attention to this, but now those 3 trustees are gone as of June 1st, and then they'll form a 7-member commission, very similar to how it was way back in the original board I was on, except being 15 members will be 7. Those 7 board members it'll be a transit commission. Those 7 board members will then be the governing board, and then they'll have a general manager running UTA. Now I know it sounds exactly like it was before, because it freaking is. But we've gone over the mountains. Now we're back to the valley. But this 7-member commission, where all the fight is now, because about 60, I think maybe it's 44% of all UTA dollars are locally generated. That local option sales tax that we all agree to implement, I think it's 44%. I can't remember the number. Either 40 or 60% of the money is local generated sales tax. So the way the commission is going to be appointed right now, if nothing changes, 2 from the House, 2 from the Senate, 3 from the governor. Is that up to 7?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay.
They'll be part of the UTA.
That will be the new transit commission. Now the 2 House members, the Speaker appoints 2, the Senate President appoints 2, the Governor appoints 3. What the league's trying to do is get it so there's some local input in the appointees, being that one of the Senate, maybe one of the House, would be a recommendation to the Senate and House from the COGS, and then the Governor would have some recommendations come from the COGS. The Governor would still make the appointments, but he would be getting his people, his nominations from the county, Davis County, our service area. Right now it's not that. Right now no elected official can serve on the commission. That's primarily about keeping legislators off the commission. But the league has talked about, well, let's not exclude local elected officials from being able to serve. Maybe they're the best person to be on that. Let's not hamper that. I don't know where that's going to go. I think that was a harder sell than the governor getting and the bodies getting appointments from the COGS. But that's what we're working on, that part of the language.
So what's the reason of going back to the old way?
That's a good question. Because it never should have got away from the old way. Well, right now you're paying 3 executives, the Davis County, the Sully County, and the Utah County. You're paying them full steam for their statutory pay, which is now north of, I think, 180 or whatever, plus benefits. You're also paying Jay Fox, who is a professional manager. So you're really paying 3 people to do
one job.
The 3 people weren't really trained in that industry.
Well, they don't, they're not really, they're accountable to their appointing authority, which is the governor, but through the COGS, but they don't really report to You know, I think it's a bad governance model.
Yeah, I agree, I just wanted to know where
Yeah. But the other part of it is.
Isn't UDOT now part of?
This is my next part. The biggest part of it is, with the state having the appointments and more of the appointments on the transit commission, the 7-member group, the state obviously owns it more and therefore needs to put more state resources into transit. And what I've been telling the league and people is, right now we have this local option that's funding what we have, and all it is funding what we have. There's no money to fund any more. The only way you grow transit in Utah is, one, you add more local option sales tax, which I don't think that's happening. Number two, the state starts to invest more money in transit. And the state's not going to invest money in transit in an entity it doesn't control. And that's the message I've been trying to tell them, is that this is good for us. You know, Andrew Gerber from Wasatch Front, he agrees. I mean, this is unprecedented. Carlos Becerras at the committee meeting I testified at, he made this comment, which I thought told the whole story. Carlos said, after I got done talking, he got up and said, I've been a transit person my whole life, road guy. I'm a road guy. Been a road guy my whole career. He's almost ready to retire. He said, now I'm a road guy and a transit guy. And I looked at Gruber and I said, that's it right there. That's the change. I mean, we need more transit.
So where you fund them together and have it all as one committee or entity, right?
Right. And Calvin's got a bill where he's working on trying to get some extra money into it out of a new state fund they're going to create that will be able to go into capital projects. But if UDOT's, you know, in charge of it, which it is, and if the state legislature and governor appoint the governing board, you've got more state hands on it, therefore more state interest, therefore hopefully more state money. I mean, you know, you look at UDOT's budget annually, I don't know what it is. Anybody know off the top of their head? I always say it this way, it's $1 billion a year, rain or shine, Christmas or not. It's like, I told Carlos, said, you don't even need to finish that kegger run, you just get another one next year. I mean, he does, he just has a constant, if there's one entity in this state that is funded to the T, it's UDOT. But the thing about Carlos is, he understands transit too now and reports of it. I think you're gonna see a better mix. The state's already putting $300 million of state funds into front runner double tracking. So the state has already stepped in a huge way, which is gonna make a major difference in front runners. Once front runner is 15-minute headways, that's a real game changer for that. But we need more vehicles and more lines and all that. So I'm excited about that. I think this restructure of UTA streamlines it, puts it in the right posture for future transit expansion. We have the Olympics coming up, all that kind of stuff. So, but the part that's still trying to be tweaked is when the governor gets his, you know, his 3 people to appoint, where is he getting the names? The league wants it to come from the cogs. They want that influence. I don't know where it shakes out. I think Harper can pass this bill just exactly how it's written. The Utah County last week riled up all their mayors to try and kill it, but I don't think that's gonna happen. But anyway, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's it.
Those are the big ones.
Yeah.
Well, you covered 10 of the 900.
So many other ones. Yeah. But I'm trying to think if I can think of any other ones.
Do we need to talk about the commissions and committees? I don't know what that one was.
That'd be the committee.
Do you want to go to that next? Anybody have any legislative questions? I'll tell you, I think Calvin's done a remarkably good job on the stuff that he's done. Some of the stuff directs us, this infrastructure banks, all the stuff he's come up with. It's really good stuff. It's new money to come into infrastructure that's never been there. He's done a really good job threading the needle with all the bills he's got. Now, you know, he was tasked with the gas tax bill, so to the extent that it kind of fizzled is not really Calvin's fault. It was a task, you know, it was a mountain that was not ready to be climbed, I guess maybe.
Well, wasn't there a strong constituent that was wanting him to sponsor a bill like that?
There was indeed, yeah, but it didn't. They ran into all kinds of, I think, opposition and things.
They ran into Idaho.
They even had issues. But on a lot of the bills, Calvin's been great. He's done a good job for us. You know, he's smart. He's been trying to help.
I texted him last night about a random bill and he got back to me right away.
Yeah,
I was super impressed.
Yeah.
And, you know, Senator Pillamore's also been responsive whenever I've needed to talk to him. He's busier, of course, but, and I had, like I said, we've had great meetings with Dan. And, you know, Dan's the tax policy guy, so he's one we gotta work with. I mean, most of them don't wanna touch it. It's just complex, trying to figure it out,
Yeah.
you know, and everybody hates taxes but, yeah.
Well, of course, we all do, but we also love the result that we get out
Right,
of it.
we get something. I mean, that's, people don't want taxes, but they do want drivable roads, and they do want an EMD, and.
But don't underestimate just the raw tweeting power and what it generates, like the whole process, because it's bizarre how much influence some of the tweet receptors are for, you know.
How is their budget this year? Do they have a bunch of money or not much money?
They don't have any money.
They don't have any money this year. So is it possible they'll pass some bills that end up unfunded?
I think so. There's Cam thinks that of these 9, soon to be 1,000 bills, most of them are gonna die.
Okay.
They're not on track to pass as many as they did last year.
Okay.
So there's a lot dying in committee.
But what a waste of time.
But also
To go
that's
through
kind
that
of
many- but
the
maybe
way it's
that's the
supposed to
beauty of the
work. I think
government,
that's
though,
the
too.
beauty of the
Yeah,
government.
that's
Yeah,
true.
you like whittle it down to what actually should move on. It'd be worse to pass stuff that shouldn't.
But you would hope that there's some common sense though of what to
There's so
bring
much
forward.
ego involved in it though.
Yeah. That's true.
They'll still pass like 200 bills in the last week.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they'll pass way too many.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's less than last year, but.
I'm not saying they won't read their
It's
last
those
year's
last
goals,
weeks
but
that gets really
horrible.
dangerous.
it just cracks me up because we're the small government Republican state in the
Look,
union. I mean, we're like the
Turns
number one.
into, I'll vote for yours and you vote for
Yeah.
mine, and.
I was at a chamber event. This young kid asked a question of us mayors. He goes like, "Hey, I just learned that the legislative session is only 45 days. What do you think of that?" And they all gave their hand. When it got to me, I said, "Whatever God you believe in, you should pray to that God tonight and thank Him that they only meet for 45 days. Yeah. That's what you should do. Whichever one it is. Tonight, you thank that God."
Because it could be worse.
It could be all year, right?
Well, there's other legislatures that meet every other year.
Yeah, like Nevada, they do it every other year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Montana
that's what we
does
should do.
too.
Yeah.
We should do.
Agreed.
They could read so many bills over the course of 2 years.
Good for the mischief.
Well, anyway, that's my report.
Good job.
I'll have more next week, next time. Okay, next is, commissions and committees.
Yeah, so this came out of the retreat from last week. There was a discussion about
Hitting the ground running.
the tree committee and then the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Committee, and are there areas of overlap, or are there areas that they could maybe swap duties, that type of thing. So, on the screen in front of you are the duties of the current duties of the tree committee out of our code. So you'll see the word recommend a lot. So they are a recommending body to the city council, and they do recommend on some important things. Take number 3 with, they just amended the street tree guide, which I think is very helpful for the community at large to know, what trees are best to plant in what areas in street trees. So like I said, a lot of it relies on their expertise as I don't know, tree experts, yeah, in their field. So I mean, is there anything up there that causes concern, or are there gaps that they ought to be involved in? And I don't, Ray, you go to the meetings on a regular basis. Ren, you go to the meetings. I don't know if you've got any.
I just feel like it really is greater than just trees. I really feel like it's
Yeah.
trees and landscaping. Because they're making a lot of recommendations to residents about water-wise landscaping and planting.
Well, we were calling it beautification, right?
Right. But all of these specifically call out trees, and I don't think that is.
You think that's too limiting?
That's so limiting, because it's really, I mean, Brenda, you're the person, but it's really more than just trees and shrubbery.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I think we talked about this too, that, kind of what Mike said, is that we've got people who are very qualified to be on that committee, and so they're noticing things, different, maybe even businesses who the park strip is
dying and those kinds of things. So, you know, kind of to what Tasha's saying, I think if we have these people who have the skill set, that we should putting them, you know, to something that's useful to us, which I think the water-wise is an important thing that, you know, we just heard from the Conservancy District that, you know, that's something I think residents will want to do as well. And how do we do that? Just this weekend I heard about an organization that's redoing their park strips, and they're like, yeah, we're just putting in gravel, and I was like, what? You know, and so it's having them be involved in things like that, helping us get the message out of what the standards are. You know, they have a good relationship with some of these other organizations, so
I just think that should be reflected in this somehow, because we are doing it.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of assumed, but it's not.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Ren, do you have any observations based on your working with the tree committee?
I agree. I think education should be their number one priority or a forefront of a volunteer committee like that. That's really what, in my opinion, is helpful to staff and helpful to all the residents. Is just education, getting that out. Some of these other things, you can look at number 5 or number 6. Sometimes it gets hard. We try and get the right people in the right positions for staff, train them, get them to be a certified arborist or get certified in pesticides and fertilizers and stuff, and so that we don't have to take direction from a tree committee where we can just go do our job. I think if we really focused in on what their role was, can maybe add things like education, which I think would be very valuable.
And they're
Some
already
of the stuff
doing it. They're already having these
They're doing it,
processes.
but it's not necessarily
It's not within their
role.
scope. I think the problem is they're doing it, but we don't list it as their
It's
job.
one of their jobs. Okay.
Well, in 8 and 9, I feel like Rhett sometimes has been one that is kind of got caught in the crosshairs too, where they've discovered where the planting of trees in some of the new developments or something that
That's what
isn't in accordance, and they have saved us on a couple of them, but then I'm thinking of like on 13th East when all those trees died on what 130 third south, no 130 third south probably.
What if it were Draper City
South.
trees, landscapes, and
132nd.
beautification?
You know where I'm, the west side.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I like focusing more on like education and just
Yeah.
awareness. I think the residents would appreciate that, and maybe they could help us make the code be more, you know, user friendly. So if you're looking to do something, you know where to go and what the standards
Yeah.
are. That
I
kind
like that education component for sure.
They did that was the tree committee that did the tree talk last fall, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Or summer. Yeah, I went to it. I thought it was great.
They do a really
Super
good
helpful.
job.
Because they have the relationships with these different
Yeah.
organizations,
Right.
and I think that's really
I think
critical.
as we move forward, I would love to see them create these welcome to Draper things, right? That's part of beautification. And I also think that as we look at these summers with no water, we need to take a look at some of our landscaping in our parks and really talk seriously about what can come out.
Our parks, yeah.
Yeah.
And
We
So
do
would
have
we
a
wanna
lot of
almost-
unusable grass.
So would we want to almost insert when we're inserting landscaping to be specific on like water-wise
Right.
standards and things
Which
like
we
that?
did have
I mean,
to
we would
adopt
assume they would.
water-wise.
But,
Yeah, that part is in our code. I think it's just
but,
defined.
but maybe
where it
put
is.
that as
It's
part
in
of
our
the
code, but
committee.
it's not in your committee description.
It's not in the committee description, and I think they're aware of what other organizations and municipalities are doing because it's the industry that they're in.
Right.
And so I think they, you know, again, to advise, to educate, even educating.
It does say water protection at number 1. That's a pretty broad scope, just number 1 by itself. It lists a lot of things that they can
That's weather protection, not
Planning of
water.
trees for beautification, yeah.
Yeah, that's weather.
It does mention water in there.
There's not just, to Tasha's point, though, it's not just trees for beautification, it's appropriate shrubbery and.
Right.
I love the idea if we do the signs, like welcome to Draper, to have the tree committee like helping, to have
Right.
buy-in from someplace, from a committee, I think
Well, that
that's
goes
a
on,
great
we were
idea.
talking about beautification,
Yeah.
is one of the words with it.
I
Right.
love that.
Do you wanna look at the parks, trails and recreation? The equivalent here?
I don't, I just read through, I mean, I don't really see it.
I'm like, where did I?
And this, so their duties are actually quite limited. So switching over to the Parks, Trails and Recreation Committee. And once again, right, you're involved with that on an intimate basis, so.
Yep.
But they spend most of their time dealing with trails, correct?
Probably 85-90%.
Yeah.
95.
Yeah. 99.
99.
We try and steer them to a few other things, but they don't bring money.
What about moving them to be more Draper City trails and open space? They seem most invested in the trails and the open space.
Oh, for sure.
So again, I feel like their title doesn't describe what they're actually doing.
Okay.
And then you could put the trees with parks and trees
Or just not
Or-
have parks?
do
I
we
mean,
need
do
to
we
have
need a
parks?
committee looking at actually like park playgrounds, or really,
I don't think so.
they kind of come packaged, right? And we vote on
Do
the
you think,
playground
like, when
we
we
want.
have gotten new parks, when you're doing new parks, is the Parks, Trails and Rec Committee, are they advising at all or a part of that process?
We always try and take the plans to them, that's what it says, but.
That they're like, can we
They
talk
say,
about
"That looks
trails?"
great.
They
Yeah.
really
What
wanna
about
talk
the
about
trails?
trails.
Yeah.
But there are then giving them to the tree commission,
You give
or
it to
you're
tree
not,
committee
giving it to
and-
them to make suggestions on what trees and stuff to plant.
Right, that is a weird discrepancy.
So that's where that would fit.
Right, like even
them.
when we did the Gold Star Memorial, it would have made sense for the tree committee to weigh in on those plantings, right? I would think.
If they're
Did
over
Ryan's
beautification.
Right.
I think the trails committee would have a problem with the parks being removed from that.
That's actually something we've discussed for years, it wouldn't be new to any of them.
Right, they
I don't
always
think
like
they
say
would
they
care.
don't want that, but then I don't know that they actually want it.
I don't think there'd be a big heartburn if it was taken from the titles committee.
I mean, we've got the largest amount of trails of any city, probably in the country.
I haven't found a municipality that has more trails than the city proper.
So, I mean, it's
They have a
appropriate.
huge scope.
Yeah, so just to have a trails committee
Right.
alone is not.
And open space, I think a lot goes into open space
Yeah.
management, frankly.
So some of this could be rewritten too, because the master plan is, how often do we update that, Rhett? And that's,
Supposed to be 12 to 15 years.
yeah,
We just did it 2003, so
it's due for a.
2003?
2023.
Oh,
sorry.
23, okay. I thought it was.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Did it in 2008, right when I first started, and then not again till 23.
Okay.
I just don't know if this is really what they're doing though.
Right.
The establishment of facilities, programs and policies to meet recreational and aesthetic needs, that's not what that committee does.
Right.
Never talk recreation.
Right? Like that's totally not correct.
Which one are you looking at, Tasha?
A.
Sorry. Oh, A, okay, there we go.
I mean, just the very first
Oh,
one.
yeah, yeah. Oh, well, I was on B, come on.
No, it's not.
Right,
That
that's
needs to
so
be
weird.
totally reworded
Right.
regarding the trails and open
Right.
space.
Right, Draper City possesses an abundance of open space,
Yeah.
the job of the.
To monitor the establishment of facilities,
Right.
programs, that meet the recreational
I don't think they
aesthetic
ever
needs.
advised on rec programs, never in the years I was there were they talking about
I
rec
think,
programs.
well, I mean, twice is all I can think of in 17 years, so.
Twice in 13 years, but those were good times.
Well, that was like stuff from the rec
Cicadas.
division, like somebody killing a suspension or a tire or something.
That's right.
Type of recreation
Okay.
program.
That's right.
We do talk about
They put a wire around.
recreation going on the trails or,
Right,
you
which
know,
would.
when we're planning a half marathon or stuff like that. But that all falls under trail.
Why don't we as staff come back to you with some ideas on how to focus in on what they do independently, but see if there are duties that ought to be swapped
At
into
the
one.
very least, I think we should make sure their descriptions are accurate of what's happening.
Absolutely.
Is it dangerous to seek out some of the members of the trail committee's input on what they would see specifically outlined in this?
I think,
or
I
should
would
we
be
not?
fascinated
No, just
to not show them this and say, okay guys, let's have a discussion about what our top 5 jobs are. What are the top 5 priorities of the tree commission? What are the top 5 priorities of the trails commission? I don't think they would say most of these things.
That's why that's why I think
Yeah.
it'd be kind of I was gonna say nice, but interesting to see
Yeah.
what they would put as their
What they
priorities.
think their
Because I don't
priority
think we
is.
question any of the members on either of the committees, their desire of wanting to improve the city and do things
Oh,
that are best.
100%,
But
yeah.
both committees are
Yeah.
still committed.
Right.
And kind of going along with what Fred says, the tree committee meets before we meet again. So, should I, ask? Should we have a discussion about what do you think your role is with the city? Should I mention that we're thinking about changing the
Adding
structure?
beautification, that'd be interesting to see, just what they do.
Just making sure to avoid giving committees any power they don't legislatively or executively have. We've had this happen before. I've said before, there was a time when that tree committee somehow, I don't know how the hell they did it, but they got themselves in the plat map business.
Yeah, I don't see that.
Remember that,
really.
Red?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I remember.
Great time, man.
Yeah.
But I don't see that with this current committee.
But again, they're not, spending
They're
public
advisory.
resources. Right,
They
they're
are
not,
advisory.
they don't get to demand
Recommendations.
staff to be at their meetings, any of that
Right.
business. Cause that costs us money and they're not in charge of staff. You
Well,
bet.
even monitor, I don't know if they even are really in charge of I might take monitor out.
Right.
Where are you seeing that? Oh, on
A.
A. Monitor the
That's okay.
establishment.
I'm still on A.
Yeah, monitor the establishment of this, yeah, that's kind of scary.
Also, I wonder, is
Yeah,
there?
take monitor out.
Is there a committee that is giving input on recreation programs and things like that? That's not something they're really doing, but
It would fall under this committee, but they
in theory it
don't
would, but that's not their
do it
interest.
much, no.
I wonder, cause I do think that is helpful to have input from people on that stuff, but I don't know where it fits.
Does this review business slow down any process, number 2?
No, I don't think so.
I think they're the ones that make a lot of the recommendations to the trails.
But I mean, the reviewing's not like slowing down something, we have to give them a special
No.
window.
We usually
review.
have stuff to review every meeting.
Carry out projects. I don't know about that.
Well, as directed
As
by the
directed,
city
yeah.
council.
But are they carrying out projects?
No, but they haven't really been directed by city council to do it. So stuff like that could be
Right. We were like,
eliminated.
We wanna add another trail, what are your suggestions?
Yeah.
If you wanna direct them to get a shovel and go around the backhoe.
I prefer
Then
not.
They would have a lot of new trails
Yeah.
done by the
Yes.
following
Then
week, I
number
think.
5, my only issue with that is if you have, if they're going out to the private sector to get donations, it ought to be coordinated with what the council, I see a bunch of problems with
Yeah,
that.
5
Well,
is
yeah,
here to
would
work.
they really initiate it?
Right.
Or
Well, you do have
sponsor
a
it?
foundation that provides a lot of financial support in the improvement of our trails.
We do.
We have had committee members though that have solicited donations from private residents. We have built several trails on that fund. So there are 1 or 2 of them that do that.
And I think it's good that they
So
initiated
maybe you just
that.
add with the approval of the city council.
Or directed by the city council,
Well,
right?
the way they do it is they'll funnel the donations through Corner Canyon Trails Foundation, and we work with the foundation to.
But I think it ought to just say with the approval of the city council, so that.
Sure.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
mean, I can see a problem coming up where someone's wanting to raise money that you guys might not want to do something.
They raise
Yeah, they
money to
do
build
give
one of those
money, though.
tunnels that we've heard about, right? And we don't want it done.
Yeah. We still will never do a project without your approval first, regardless of where the money comes from.
That probably should be outlined though, so it's not just assumed, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And to go back to the tree committee, they don't have that number 4. I don't think carry out projects, and they've been the one that has been doing the Arbor Day.
Right.
So.
There's some that mentions
It does
Arbor
say-
Day on there.
Does it say that on
But,
there?
but maybe
Yeah.
have it be
Reading.
consistent with the other committees. The number 4.
It says make recommendations, but it doesn't say carry, it's that they're the ones doing it, like this one.
Well, we will come back with some more thoughts.
It might
for
be
you.
nice to have this little paragraph printed out for each of the committees. Cause like Brenda's saying, should each committee have 4, maybe?
That's what I'm saying.
Have
Maybe have
number
that
four.
Oh, number 4.
having
Oh, yeah.
that consistent
Right, it
across.
would be
Yeah.
nice to see what they each have, what's consistent across all
Yeah,
committees.
there's general rules for all committees. That's more on structure and operation, although
Advisory only.
Boy, we do a good job using up all of our time, don't we?
Yeah, so there's not, a lot of this is procedural.
Yeah.
Psychological.
Okay.
We talked about it before, there was some details.
Some thoughts on that?
Didn't want to read the
It'll be okay.
Okay, now we have like 5 minutes, we take a break and then see you in there. Everybody, are we ready to go, Nicole?
Really do.
All right. Everyone, welcome. I'd like to call our city council meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be offered by our police chief, Rich Ferguson. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, so I can't say anything.
Thank you, Chief. Next item on our agenda is an opportunity for the public, which I see none of, to make general public comment. I'll ask once officially, is there anyone here that would like to make a general public comment to the city council? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public comment period and get to item 4, which is items for consent vote. Item 4A is approval of the February 3rd, 2026 city council meeting minutes. 4B is approval of resolution 2610. It's a resolution reappointing Christine Green as an alternate member of the Draper Planning Commission. Item 5A, oh, I'm sorry, that's it. I guess we're there on the.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the consent calendar.
All right, motion to approve by Ms. Lowry. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Bryn. Is there any further discussion? Tasha, how do you vote?
Yes.
Bryn?
Yes.
Fred?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
All right, items approved and passed unanimously 4-0. That takes us to item 5, which are the beginning of much public hearing. Item 5A, public hearing ordinance number 1701. It's an ordinance of the Draper City amending the text of titles 9, 11, and 17 of the City Municipal Code in order to update references to Utah State Code, known as the city-initiated Utah State Code Reference Update Text Amendment. Of the staff report by Todd, and this of course applies right now, which will change in 2 more weeks with some more likely updates. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, thank you. And I'm filling in for Todd Taylor, who wrote the staff report. This first one tonight, actually, I'm going to present very quickly. It's not a whole lot to it, other than when they reordered and renumbered all of the state ordinances and laws pertaining to land use middle of last year. We just hadn't updated those references in the code. So that's all these are. References changing from Title 10, Chapter 9A to Title 10-20. There's a few other chapters that they moved some things in. So that's all they are, is just changing our code to update to the correct state title or code in all of the different sections. Are there any questions you have for me on that one? And there's a lot of them.
Is that 1701?
So it'll be this is Title 10. It used to be 10-9A in state code for the most part, and then they've moved.
But I mean, our agenda item you're talking about right now is 1701. All that you're talking about. You're not.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
1701. Just that one.
To improve all of these individually, or can we hear them all and then approve it?
Do it in mass if you want to.
Yeah.
Just keep doing your
If you,
presentation.
if you would like, I would be more than happy. Most of them are very
If there's one you
similar.
want to pull out of order.
All right. So the motion is to have you report 5A, B, C, and D, and E. Is that right?
No.
No.
He is Mike. Or do you
I'm
want to
sorry.
do yours too, Mike?
5A, B, C, and D all together, and then we can have one public hearing on all the ordinances. That's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Catherine? All right. Motion by Tasha, second by Catherine. Tasha, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Catherine? Fred?
Yes.
Bryn?
Yes.
Todd? Fire away like you have a Gatling gun of information.
Well, we'll
Wait, bad reference. Go ahead, expound.
We'll get it. All right. The second one up is the one for our variance and appeal officer. State doesn't really want us to have hearings there, so calling that individual the hearing officer is a little bit off key there. So basically, that's what we've done here. Removed the word hearing from that. Again, we've amended another section of the code to update it there. And that's most of what that is. It just a little bit of clarification that they're going to review and decide appeals and variances. So, and that's most everything there on 5B.
5B, okay.
5C. If I can get back out to it here. This is another section of the code, city-initiated public access amenity zoning text amendment. What this basically is, if I can get that to go, another change in the state law where we were just prohibited from requiring private maintenance of public access amenities, except for park strips, sidewalks, amenities agreed to upon or through agreement. Where we have a lot of places in the title where it talks about public open space, we're just going to get rid of the public and call it open space. But that was just basically things that were required of developers when they were doing amenities or other components of a development plan. And we're just clarifying that, you know, what is public, what is private, and what the maintenance is without running afoul of the state law. So most of that was just some small changes there. Took out the public use space definition, and then just more of the different things, open spaces, plazas, social gathering areas, minor changes in there just to bring it into compliance and better define that.
Why do they want to take out that public term?
I think there was some concern about and maybe Spencer or Tracy can weigh in here. I think the concern had to do a little bit with liability and the question of if it's being privately maintained but then open to the public. There's also some potential constitutional takings issues. So I think that was what the state was thinking, from what I understand, and then we're just working the ordinance to comply.
That all 5C?
And that's 5C, if there's any other questions, and then I can do 5D. And then this is just the residential parking. This one does have a little bit more complexity to it. Basically, the state redefined what we could and couldn't require as far as when it came to parking within a garage. Specifically, if it was a owner-occupied affordable housing component, we could not require the parking to be in a garage. There is a state definition for that. I don't know how many of those we'll actually get, just because it's kind of a convoluted definition to begin with from the state. And so we just had to make the changes to our code to comply with that and make that work. What it just basically does here, we still require the garage for each single-family dwelling, except if they come in and they can show that they comply with that definition of owner-occupied affordable housing. At that point, we wouldn't be able to require it. The other thing that we do with this when we started going through that is this also kind of impacts our visitor parking for developments, and so we wanted to make sure that in this change we also defined visitor parking, what it was, where it could be, what was required. So this ordinance request to change is to make a few little additional tweaks to that to make it really clear when we are working with, say, larger multifamily developments, what that visitor parking is, where it can be. There was another part of that was, it could have potentially been, say, on the driveway behind one of these homes, but then it would have to be available to any visitor, and then that would block potential residents of those homes from actually using the garage. So we want to make sure that didn't happen. Again, yeah, just the tandem parking, we made some updates to that. And then just a little bit more on the visitor and the different development code sections where that shows up. Any other questions you might have for me on that?
I have a question about the definition of affordable housing for not requiring a garage. If that's something that just, we've been rezoning some of these parcels where a family member is going to, build a home on, like their parents' land. Mm-hmm. So if they were to come forward and say, I want to build an affordable, a home within that affordable housing definition, then they would not have to build a garage on that property.
Correct. Looking kind of at the numbers, I don't know that you would get that in Draper just based on the cost of the land alone. It drives that to a price point where even if it is essentially on parents' land that's being given to them, there'd be a question on whether it met it.
So they would calculate the worth of that land towards the price of the home?
Yeah.
Okay.
We would look at it that way.
Thank you.
I have one question.
Oh, yes.
I have one question on the last one, the one that had to do with parking.
Yes.
On one of those you said, or it said, I'm not sure which one, but it said basically in a multifamily parking that they had to require, or they had to provide
Is this one maybe?
Parking available to everyone, basically, is what it said in it was on the first slide, I think. What, next one?
This one, yeah.
Yeah, number 7. So it says, multifamily dwellings shall be located in a common area accessible for intermittent short-term use of all visitors of properties. Sometimes when I go to like an apartment or something, they say you can't park here unless you have a permit or something like that. So does that make that not allowed, or that doesn't change that?
On our side, when we look at it and review the actual site plan, we would be looking for where is your visitor parking. We'd be looking to make sure that it is in a common area, not something that's restricted kind of to the residents only. At that point, it's not really visitor parking. It's additional parking for the resident themselves, maybe. what this particular one came out of was that concern that the way the state law kind of worked with what was tandem parking and not tandem parking. Our concern was that if we're still requiring a driveway 20 feet depth behind the garage, that could be 2 tandem spaces behind each garage. If a development came in and tried to say that's my visitor parking, it would need to be available to everyone. So any visitor could park in behind your car that's in the garage and block you in. And we did not want that to happen, so that's why number 7 was put in.
I see, but the apartment or the townhome could still have their own requirements for visitors.
They could put some requirements in there, whether they met ordinance or not, would be hard to say. And if there was a complaint, we could potentially look at that from an enforcement side.
Okay.
But our intent in the way the code is set out is that visitor parking is available for all visitors to the site. There may be, I don't know, some minor restrictions in there that the apartment management sets themselves, but that may or may not even comply with this. And if there was something that didn't comply, we may have to enforce on complaint. Because I know there are some where they say, oh, this is for my maintenance truck only. This is for my apartment management only. Well, that's now not a visitor space.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
We'd have to look at that. It'd probably be case by case. I'm assuming over time a lot of apartment complexes move away from whatever the approved plan was. They don't always consult before they do that. Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, any further questions? All right, this is public hearing for ordinance number 1701, 1702, 1703, and 1704, which are items 5A, B, C, and D for council consideration. Anyone from the public that would like to address the council on any of those ordinances? All right, seeing no public comment, we'll close the public comment period, bring it back to the council.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve items 5A, 5B, and 5C, and 5D. Ordinances 1701, 1702, 1703, and 1704.
All right, there's a motion to approve those ordinances. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Lowry.
Sorry,
All right.
Bren.
Any further discussion on these exciting ordinances? Seeing none. Fred, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tasha?
Yep.
Bren?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
Items approved unanimously 4-0.
3 yeses. 3 yeses and 1 yep.
That takes us to item, am I at D? No, E.
5E.
5E, yes. 5E on our agenda, which is a public hearing. It's ordinance 1705. It's an ordinance adjusting the common boundaries between Draper City and Highland City. Mr. Barker, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief in my comments. More than 60 days ago, the council passed a resolution of intent to adjust the common boundary with Highland. Tonight is to actually adopt an ordinance that would do that. Just to refresh your memories, on the maps in front of you, Highland owns this narrow strip of land that's actually located in Draper. And then AJV owns, which owns the rest of the parcel to the west, located in Draper City, but they own this narrow strip of land that's actually in Highland City. So the idea is to put the Highland City property into Highland and reunite that strip of privately owned land back in Draper City where it belongs. So, any questions?
All right. This is a public hearing, ordinance number 1705. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the council on this item? Seeing no public, close the public hearing, bring it back to the council.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move that we approve ordinance 1705
All right, motion for approval by Bryn for 1705. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Catherine, all right. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, Bryn, how do you vote?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
Tasha? Yep. Fred?
Yes.
Item's approved 4-0. Takes us to item 5F. This is a public hearing as well. It's resolution 26-11. It's a resolution amending the adopted budget and staffing document of Draper City for fiscal year 2025-2026. Our staff presentation by Mr. John Veit. Go ahead, sir.
There we go. I'm good. Yes, I'm fine. It's big enough up on the screen, but somebody over there had to borrow my glasses. I don't know who. We have a budget amendment to bring before you. There's a few items on here. I'll talk about each of them individually. If you have questions on any of them, go ahead and stop me during it. The first item is a housekeeping item. It's a change of the budget from personnel, from operating expenses into personnel expenses for our change that the council voted on to move our prosecution services in-house. Now, I actually noted that we were going to change the staffing document, but as we adopted the staffing document with the final adopted budget, we made that change. And so we don't need to make a change to the staffing document based on that. But we will be moving budget from an operations line item into a personnel line item to cover those costs associated with the in-house staff. The second item is a fire grant that we received. We received a grant from the state. That grant is for fire prevention and mitigation, and it was going to provide funds to purchase a truck and a chipper. And so we are seeking approval to be able to recognize the grant revenue, transfer that from the general fund into the fleet fund, and make the purchase of those vehicles. Item 26-12, the police department has seen some high overtime costs in meeting its demands and staffing for investigations and special operations. And so we are just being proactive and bringing to you a budget amendment to increase their overtime by $250,000. Now, we'll continue to work with the police. There are some funds that are going to come in as reimbursements that will help with some of this, help lower what we're projecting as their overtime costs. But we wanted to make sure that we were covered in the case and that Chief Ferguson could continue with the operations as he would like to. So, item 2613 is open space purchase. So the city is finalizing an agreement to purchase, I think that number actually got updated from 76.02 to, so we're purchasing some acres of land from Corner Canyon LLC, and we're going to receive a reimbursement for a portion of that, and then we are going to, we had originally noted that we were going to use funds from the general fund to be able to purchase that land, and so we're just recognizing the funds that we're using. Item 2614, this is a CIP project for Pioneer Road from 700 East to 1300 East, and this will work on some storm drain improvements. We're going to use Highway Transportation Improvement Fund for $1.5 million and the Stormwater Fund from the fund balance there. So the total project cost will be $3.5 million. Item 2615 is also a capital project. This project is on Fort Street from 132nd South to Pioneer Road. So we are proposing to add funding for the city's matching portion of a federal grant to improve Fort Street from 132nd to Pioneer Road. So this match that we are required to do is going to come from transportation impact fees. Item 2616 is our annual pavement maintenance projects. What we do every year is we look at what's left in there from the previous year, we close out that fund, and then we add the funding from B&C Road needed to bring us to our project total of $3 million. And so that's what this amendment will do. Item 2617, another CIP project, is for Rocky Mountain Power LED streetlights. The city received a grant from Energy Efficiency Community Block Grant. We have gone through and swapped out all of the lights that are city-owned lights with LED lights. There are now 261 lights that remain that are Rocky Mountain Power lights. The city is proposing to swap out those lights as well. There's a almost 5-year time to be able to make up the cost, but the cost of $100,000 would be made up by using those LED lights and the savings that will be generated from that.
Is that a whole light fixture, or is it just the light bulb? It's just the light bulb. They're expensive light bulbs then? Yes, they're expensive, but the energy savings is significant. So I think it's like $19,000 a month we'd save in energy.
You make back the $100,000 in 4.85 years. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yeah. So we'll start saving money after this investment after less than 5 years.
Item 2618 is a stormwater management improvement in the Highland area. So this project will reroute storm drain down Eagle Crest Drive to Eagle Stone Way. This will prevent the system from draining to a problematic detention basin above the split on Suncrest Drive. And then the rest of it will be used to repair and reconstruct other detention basins in the area. That is coming from the stormwater fund balance. Item 2619 is Traverse Ridge wall repair. That one is going to come from our highway projects fund, and it's $65,000 to repair the retaining wall on that road. We're getting close. I think I see the end in sight. 2 more CIP projects. 2620 is for supervisory control and data acquisition software. This is used to monitor the status of the water system in our aging platform. And if you have further questions on that, that $1.5 million is not part of this. It is only $150,000 coming from the water fund balance. All right. Item 2621 is 700 West from 123rd to 114th, and this is going to add curb and gutter and sidewalk along the road from 115th South to 118th South. We are going to use Stormwater Impact Fund to fund that to the tune of $400,000. Just to note, the Stormwater Impact Fund total project budget will be $580,000. So we're adding an additional $400,000 to the current budget of $180,000. There is also transportation impact fee funds that are scheduled to be used in that same area of almost $1 million. Oh, I thought those were the last 2. So close. We have 2 more. Oh, we got 4 more. Sorry. So we got some more CIP projects. These are Salt Lake County advanced traffic management systems that we need to use to help synchronize and manage all of our traffic signals. That is going to be $65,000 funded through the Highway Projects Fund. Item 2623 is 134 South Connection, Phase 1. This project will complete a section of asphalt on 134 South that will allow us to have access from Fort Street to 1300 East along 134 South. Certainly one that the police and fire department are in favor of. Item 2624 is signal upgrades, and this project is for pedestrian systems upgrading to LED, and then improving the radar detection. And this is going to be at 132 60 South and IKEA Way, as well as 13490 South and 200 West. And that is also going to be funded out of the Highway Transportation Improvement Fund. I think this is the last one. Last one is a City Hall parking lot expansion. And so that is some design work and putting in pavement on the east end of the parking lot and increasing the capacity both of where we're storing our waste containers, as well as increasing parking within the parking lot here at City Hall. So that's all the items that are currently listed on the budget amendment. One item has been brought to me that if the council wants to add as a council added item, you're certainly welcome to. We are going to request that you add $100,000 from the transportation impact fee to do a transportation study. Feasibility study, that's what the official term is, the transportation feasibility study.
The reason for that is, so we're assessing impact fees to the point, but the point land itself was never contemplated as part of our transportation impact fees. So right now we are under state law, they can request a reduction in the impact fee, which they're going to go through a study and present that to us. But in the meantime, we need to look at our transportation impact fees and include the point in our study area. So I strongly recommend adoption of that.
So if you're going to adopt that, you would want to say approve the budget as noted, including $100,000 for transportation feasibility study. So that's everything from me. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
All right, any questions for John on all of those amendments?
John, could you go back to the light part?
The LED street lights from Rocky Mountain Power?
Yes. Okay, thank you.
So on the police overtime, the request is for $250,000?
It is.
And that's, Chief, you're just working?
It's a lot of different things that have come to our, we've had several investigations that have required overtime. We've had some FMLAs that, we couldn't count on. And largely, it's a good thing. Our salaries have gone up. We've started the career series, and we're keeping our officers here in Draper. They're not going to another agency for more money. Their salaries are going up, therefore my overtime's going up.
Thank you.
On the lights, did you have a question?
Oh, no, I just wanted to see the number. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Yep.
This is a public hearing. Resolution 2611. I see no members of the public here. But any members of the public would like to address the council on these budget amendments? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring us back to the council.
Who's got the number to
That's right, $100,000 for the transportation impact study.
Oops.
Who's motioning?
Fred, to your question, I think the $100,000 for the transportation impact fees would be 26. Is that right, John?
Yes.
Are you ready to make the motion? I don't. Go ahead. I don't even know if I have it right. We want to add $100,000
For a transportation impact study.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 26-11 with the addition that we also add $100,000 for a transportation impact study.
At the point.
Impact fee study.
For the point.
For the point.
All right, that's your motion.
Transportation impact study for the point.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion by Fred and second by Tasha. Any further discussion? All right, Fred, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tasha? Catherine?
Yes.
Bren?
Yes.
All right, and item passes unanimously. That gets us to item 6, unless there are other items any council members wanted to bring up, or other staff members. All right, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Tasha to adjourn. Second?
I'll second.
Second by Brent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? We are adjourned.